You're probably sitting in your garage wondering if there's a simple way to keep your project cars safe, clear up floor space, and avoid the hassle of juggling tires and parts on the ground. The biggest fear when you start hunting for a lift is ending up with something that looks great on paper but turns into a daily headache: noisy hydraulics, a wobble that scares you every time you drive the car back down, or a machine that just can't handle the weight of the trucks you work on. If you've been stuck between those two extremes, you'll want to hear why a heavy-duty 4-post lift might actually be the solution you need, and why you don't have to sacrifice reliability for a lower price tag. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The MutsMover 8,500 pounds, extra tall and wide 4-post lift sits in a niche that's often filled with either industrial-grade lifts you can't fit in a residential garage, or low-capacity 2-post lifts that barely clear a low-profile coupe. The biggest practical difference here is capacity and clearances. At 71 inches of maximum lift height, it can easily raise a full-size SUV or a lifted off-road rig to a comfortable working height, while the 8,500-pound rating means you're not limited to lightweight sports cars. That opens the door for anyone who wants to store a blend of daily drivers and weekend project trucks under the same roof. Who should consider this lift? First, the serious hobbyist or small shop owner who already has a decent amount of floor space but needs to free it up for extra parts or a workbench. If you have a 12 by 22-foot garage and you're tired of the clutter that comes from tires, spare parts, and low-sitting cars, this lift will give you a vertical storage solution that's far more efficient than a traditional rack or a stackable tire rack. Second, the person who routinely does suspension or brake work and needs a stable platform that won't shift under the car's weight. Because each column has a dual mechanical safety lock, the lift stays in place even if the hydraulic pressure drops. This is a real comfort for anyone who's ever felt a car slip a fraction under a weaker system. On the flip side, if you're a renter with limited ceiling height, or you only ever lift a single lightweight car for a quick oil change, this might be overkill. The lift demands a 110-volt power source and, as the spec notes, you'll need a forklift or a small tractor to get the unit into the garage in the first place. Those two logistical hurdles alone can turn an otherwise perfect fit into a costly project. For people who are comfortable moving a few heavy items with a hand truck, the extra effort might be acceptable, but if you have a narrow driveway or a stair-only entry, you may want to look at a more compact 2-post solution. Let's talk about the actual day-to-day experience once the lift is set up. The hydraulic system is powered by a single-phase 110-volt motor, which means you won't need 3-phase service or a dedicated high-amperage circuit, just a standard garage outlet that can handle the motor's draw for short periods. In practice, that translates to a lift that engages smoothly in a few seconds, climbs at a measured pace, and holds its position without the pulsating motion you sometimes hear with lower-quality pumps. The Q345 high-strength steel frame adds a noticeable sense of solidity. When you pull a car up, there's no flex, no creaking, and the steel doesn't start to rust even after a few rainy months parked outside. The lock system is where the safety claim becomes tangible. Each column has a mechanical latch that automatically drops into place as the lift reaches its set height. I've watched a few owners demonstrate the process. The car lifts, the latch clicks, and the hydraulic valve can be shut off without the car drooping a millimeter. That means if you have a power cut or a blown fuse, the car stays safely suspended. It's the sort of detail that separates a lift you trust from a maybe situation. Now, about the drawbacks that become apparent after you start using the lift for weeks or months. The biggest hidden trade-off is the requirement for a secondary piece of equipment to move the lift itself. Because the unit weighs over 1,000 pounds thanks to its steel construction, you can't just wheel it into place on a regular castering set. The manufacturer suggests a forklift or a small tractor, and while that's fine for a professional shop, a typical homeowner will need to rent equipment or ask a friend with a lift truck. That upfront cost can add up faster than you think. Also, the 71-inch max height sounds generous until you realize that your ceiling might be lower than that. You'll need to measure from floor to rafters and subtract a couple of inches for the lift space plates. Otherwise, you could be looking at a situation where the car bumps the ceiling before you even get a comfortable working height.